We use the poll to cross-promote issues and stories that we're working on. And we find that on average about 20 to 25,000 employees and agents and their agents' team members are taking that poll weekly. Our completion rate is pretty astounding. We've been very successful with the completion rate. It averages around 85%, and we find that the completion rate is even higher when we have multiple question polls rather than a single question poll. So we're finding that people not only like to take that initial question, they stay all the way through and finish that poll, even if it's 3 or 4 or 5 questions. The results of the poll that you're looking at was a poll we ran on in October about customer service. Again, we had a very high percentage completion rate, about 87%. So this type of poll is indicative of the completion rates we see on multiple question polls. We've had another poll recently that was also looking at ways that employees could share ideas on how they could help reduce costs within the organization. Again, very high completion rates. And in fact, since we launched the News Hub in 2007, we've seen departments in our company come to us and say, we really want to do a poll about something that we're going to launch, or we're going to be tackling an issue in our department. We would love to see how our employees, as well as employees around the enterprise or the organization, feel about an issue. So now we're at a point where we're having departments come to us and say, hey, we'd like a poll on X topic or B topic. Can you do that? And in most cases, we've been able to work with that business department to, hello there. We've been able to work with most business departments to create polls that have a wider appeal than perhaps just one department or business area of State Farm. And in fact, we have employees who are now giving us ideas for polls. Additionally, we've been leveraging polls off of news stories that we've covered on the News Hub. So we've been driving polls as a result of coverage issues, but we've also been creating stories on the News Hub as a result of polls. We can go to the next slide, please. A little bit more on how we measure our polls. We've had 151 polls, and again, this was through November of 2009. We've had more since then, but through November of 2009, we've had 151 polls on the News Hub, and if you added up all of the employees who took those polls, it would come out to close to about 3 million, just over 2,270,000 employees have taken that poll. Again, the engagement rates are pretty high, 16.5%. With more than 15,000 completing the polls on average. And as I said, that number has even gone up since the slide was created. We're averaging now around 20 to 25,000 employees per poll. And again, you can see the completion rates are very high, particularly with those polls that have multiple questions. So we're very pleased that the engagement has remained high, but I think it's also a testament to selecting polls that we know are going to resonate with employees, which leads me into our next slide. And these were our most popular polls in 2009. And we find that the most popular polls are the ones that focus not necessarily on issues related to our business, although those do generate a lot of reaction. People enjoy polls about what's happening in their daily lives. So we're looking for polls that are about trends in communication, behavior, wellness. As I said, we often drive polls from stories that we've covered, and we'll often also author stories based on polls that we've run. So our most popular polls in 2009 had to do with social media, with about sleep, about how employees are using email not only in their work environment, but in their personal lives, how they're using cell phones, what they were going to be doing in terms of watching the Super Bowl back in 2009, exercise, television, how they're using credit cards. So again, polls that resonate, at least we're finding that resonate with our employees, are really about issues that go beyond just their daily work environment.
Fraser, I have a question for you.
Yes,
actually,
David.
it comes from Gary Dean, who's on the line with us today. And Gary has a keen eye, apparently, because he wonders aloud why State Farm had a spike in comments in July of 2009.
Let me go back. You know, that is a good question, Gary. I can't recall exactly what was happening at that time. I don't recall anything in particular what that poll would have been about. I mean, you would think that July is kind of a slow time. People are out for summer vacation. You're in the lazy, hazy days of summer. Be honestly, I'd have to check. I don't recall exactly what caused that spike.
Okay, doke.
It may have been a poll regarding 4th of July plans, which may have led it around a holiday, but sure. I'd have to go back and check. if we could go to the next slide after this one.
Sure.
So measuring success. How do we know that our polls and our comments are making a difference, particularly as to how the News Hub is being read and used by our employees and agents? Well, we conduct a reader survey of the News Hub yearly since we've been online in 2007. And what you see on the left-hand side are results of that survey using PollStream, a poll that we did to ask people what did they like about the News Hub, what were they finding interesting, how relevant was the News Hub in their daily lives. And for the second year in a row, this poll was conducted last year, we found that a majority of our employees find the News Hub relevant, that they use the information that they're reading, they're seeing and hearing on the News Hub in their daily jobs. And what we're finding, and what it is probably reinforcing with us, is that the News Hub is still the go-to source of information for our employees and agents company-wide. And of course, we can say that the increased use of the poll and the comment engine is helping drive that increased readership engagement. We're seeing that the more comments, the more people are taking part in our polls, they're feeling more connected to the News Hub. It's no longer a one-way communication tool that we used in the beginning. What we find also is we're looking to increase the frequency of polls as we move forward. These two applications using the comment engine and the poll, we feel are a great way to get a handle on the pulse of your employees. And by leveraging the poll and comments in internal communications, I think you can get a snapshot of what employees are thinking about, what they're asking for, and what they're talking about. So the metrics have really borne out, for us at least, that incorporating comments and incorporating this poll on a weekly basis into this daily news site has really driven engagement for us over the last 3 years.
Fraser, that's great. By my count, we have about 12 minutes left, but I do have a question before we formally head into question and answer. I think one of the more powerful things about the PollStream application is that, particularly with the poll, you can measure just about everything. You have some really powerful numbers, and I'm wondering what are some of the key metrics that you look to basically prove out that these tools are worth their weight, but also that your corporate culture is healthy and thriving.
Well, obviously, using PollStream is one of those key tools, because this is probably the most upfront, immediate impact that we're seeing, that people are being engaged with the News Hub. In addition to the survey, we have some larger communication assessments that we take on a company-wide basis, where we include other communication vehicles that we're using around the company. And we also ask questions about those tools, but we also include questions about the News Hub. And those assessments are generally backing up what we're seeing from the PollStream data, that people are relying on the News Hub on a daily basis to not only remain engaged, but to learn about what's happening within the walls of State Farm, but also outside State Farm, and how the issues of the day outside our walls are affecting our company and our people.